So let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and get started for real. So for everyone, once again, would stay muted. And there will be time for questions at the end. If you have a question during, please use the chat. So go ahead and start. So welcome to the first episode of the Greatest Hits. I'm joined today by Master Dominyk Wolferam from Atlantia. Dominyk is one of the best fighters I've ever faced. So hello, Dominyk. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Hanging in, getting ready to
So
move. Gonna go to
yeah,
lockout.
yeah. So do you want to say how long you've been fencing in the SCA?
Yeah, so I started in the summer of 2001, and that first couple years I fought off and on. I was in a college town, and so the access to equipment and stuff was, spotty. And then sometimes it was just go to SCA event to hang out or practice to hang out. And after a couple of years, I started picking it up for pretty seriously and started working on it. I started with Connor was the guy in my area that I really hung out with and got started with.
Yeah. And what did you say? Like, do you have what is your? How many times have you won big tournaments, or kind of like brag about yourself for a little bit?
Okay. So I've won almost 150 tournaments total. That's both small and big ones in my kingdom, and I've fought in at least 15 champions battles at Gulf Wars, and at Penzik, and I haven't lost one of those. Those I love those fights. Those are the you put it all on the line for your kingdom kind of fights, and I just love them.
Okay.
Some of my most my favorite ones was I won the Rose Tourney at Gulf Wars. That's probably my favorite tournament, is the Rose Tourney Gulf Wars. I won that twice, and then I won it again 10 years later, which I'm very proud of, to have that sort of longevity and be able to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's probably my favorite tournament in the SCA. So
Absolutely.
definitely one of the I have not won. That's on my list.
Oh, it is on your list. That's right. You haven't won that.
I know.
What you do is you got to get them to give you the mimosas beforehand.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into some video, and I will share my screen here.
Okay.
So should everyone be able to see that? And then we'll start here with this one from Amir, I think. So wait till you come on guard here real quick.
Okay, so this is Master Raphael.
Yeah. So my first question is do you want to talk about your your on guard stance? Like, what
Sure.
is your theory behind like the way you stand and you come on guard?
All right, so my stance is not very typical, honestly, because I base my stance more on movement and being able to be fluid, as opposed to being in a certain spot with my feet. So my front foot. So first of all, the biggest thing is my hips, right? I always have to have my hips balanced over straight up and down, because I want that to control my weight. Okay, if I let my weight get up into my head and into my shoulders, I lean forward and lean back and have to spend energy and momentum to move back and forth. My left foot is always back there and I'm always on the ball of my foot. So I started that in lieu of a deeper lunge, right? So I found out early on that I could keep that foot flexed back there and be able to move back and forth pretty quickly, but also not have to extend as much as I could fly forward to get the same distance as a lunge. My front foot is, my weight is back sort of away from my knee. And that is the front foot I use, and I always try to be able to either go forward or backwards depending on what I need to do. So when you watch these videos, you'll see a lot of movement, a lot of small back and forth movement. And so I try not to get caught up too much in the actual steps, but more about where I'm moving my range for my sword. Right. So it's all about what I can reach, way less about where my feet land and where they don't land. For me, in my head, right? That's the way I think about it. So The smaller movements, I'm actually adjusting my range, not necessarily my feet. If you look, I'm sure that it's all through the videos, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The smaller movements are not to get my feet in the right position. It's to get my sword and my range in the right spot.
Okay. This is a very short fight, so we'll just watch
Yeah,
it
yeah.
through one time real quick.
Is this full speed or half speed?
This is full speed right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see what you're talking about. A lot of movement.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then we will watch the killing blow at slow mo.
Okay, so what right before this shot, right? He had posted his front foot forward, and at that point I had measured his range. And so I knew where his range was going to be as he planted his front foot, as he planted his front foot. So when I see him coming forward after I took his arm, right? So I see his back leg come up, then
Mm-hmm.
I just do a replace, right? I just knock it straight down and
Oh
replace
yeah, yeah.
my sword.
Good parry on that.
Yeah. But that was a very large movement, right? So that wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily a small parry that I could do. I basically just walled that off with my stick, if you watch, across the body, and then I had to bring my sword up over his. See, he's gonna lunge right here. See where the stick is like a wall there,
Mm-hmm.
and then basically I just dropped it in. Right, I didn't have to extend it all because he was coming forward.
Yeah. It was a nice counterpunch
Mhm.
or a riposte.
Right now, see, look at my feet. Look at my feet. Right, my feet are crap. If you pause it right there, where I'm actually getting the killing blow. Right, like you can't say use that stance. Right,
Yeah.
but my weight is back going in the right direction, and I'm able to cork my torso forward to get the shot to drop in without
Mm-hmm.
having to do it. And watch, I'll recover back to balance it. You see it? See that?
Yeah. I mean, you could freeze frame. You could take the best fighters in the world, and you could freeze frame and find them.
Sure,
It
absolutely.
looks it looks bad, right? But
Yeah,
it's being able to be in that bad spot and then quickly get back to it, or know that it's okay. It's like
yeah,
context
exactly,
dependent, right?
exactly.
Because
Right,
if
like
you look
you
at
don't
it,
lose fights because you step wrong. You lose fight
yeah,
because you step.
and your his blade is down here, covered by your stick, and you're
Yeah,
pulling your midsection away from it, so you're pretty far away from what's going to kill you, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. And I had just taken his hand too, so I wasn't like the danger here, right? Because I'm going two different directions. The danger here is if he parries or if I missed that shot, right? Say I went for his head and went beside it and I missed it, and he still had his dagger hand, then he just takes that other step, right, and comes in with his dagger, and I got my stick and my sword out of the way.
yeah.
So that's why I have to be careful not to get too, going in the two different directions, right? I don't want my torso to determine the whole direction I'm going.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Whoops.
Go.
I clicked away from the playlist.
Oh, cellos.
Here we go. Let's do this one.
Oh my goodness.
So, do you also want to talk about your choice of sword and offhand real quick?
Sure.
Because obviously everyone has like what they look for in a sword, but then also a stick is not. It's a very uncommon weapon style, and so if you want to talk about your like
Sure.
why you chose it, what's its advantages and disadvantages are, and stuff like that.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. Started years ago, obviously. And it's not totally uncommon. Kelly's in here too. He uses a stick. Um, so it started back when I was like just a poor college kid, right, and looking for stuff to fight with. And there was this like stick. It was a cane. It was had good weight to it. And I realized that I could use the stick and get the same amount of parrying power at the end of the stick that I can at the hilt. Right. So I mean, as you go towards the fort of the sword, the parrying power gets less and it
Mm-hmm.
gets thinner, it gets faster. But with a stick, you get the same power of to parry with that the entire length of it, right? So I could reach out farther and manipulate their blade a lot easier. And this is something that I discovered, right? This is not something I went, oh, I shall do it this way. I was like, oh, I'll fight with this stick, and like, whoa, I can reach this guy easier now. And also, I thought, well, yeah, this is young Dominyk fighting swords, and it's like, oh, well, if I take two swords, I'll have better. But then I'm like, all right, well, I can parry real well with this stick, and if I take this stick out there, they won't come usually with case; they'll come with a dagger. and I'll have reach on them too. So I have an advantage that way too. And the other reason I started with it was because it's actually really helpful in a melee.
Oh yes.
Right? Because your oh shit parry is a lot faster with a sword, and I'm pretty sure that there's almost no one in my fighting household that I haven't whacked with it standing beside them while I'm parrying. Like just parry across and like, oh man, I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, hit him on the side of the head.
That's funny.
I'm pretty sure I've gotten just about everybody. Dante multiple times for sure. But then I started to refine it. Right, as over the years, I realized that because it was so much strength in it, that I could use a lot less uh, effort to parry. Right, so I could use a small effort to move their sword a lot, and then and then and then I could create like nice big angles and walls and stuff inside of their guard that I could fight around. And it grew to the point where my brain sort of thinks in sort of beat and parry and sword and stick, right? So it just became the way that I thought about a fight while it was going on. And I teach a stick class too, right? The basics and fundamentals are pretty easy to teach of what I do.
There is a video on my YouTube channel about
that is true. I forgot about that. That's right. That's
about
right.
how to use a stick if anyone's interested. I always found it's
How
kind
many
of
hits
like,
does it have?
I don't remember.
Many.
I've always felt like it's kind of halfway between a sword and a dagger. Like it's as fast as a dagger, but it has the reach of a sword. It has
Yeah.
better leverage than a sword, as you said.
And it's not as threatening as a dagger in the psychology of a fight. It's way more dangerous than a dagger because it can create much bigger openings when used in conjunction with a sword. But it's not as threatening, right? It doesn't automatically trigger that immediate retreat or defensive mechanism.
That makes sense.
So, and part of my game is wanting them to take, and we'll get into this in other fights too, is wanting them to take a large tempo, right? So that I can use my smaller footwork to steal the tempo. And so if they're threatened, right, and if they're flinching backwards every time, then that doesn't work as much.
Kind of draw them in a little bit. Okay, so we'll go ahead and play this video.
I'm pretty sure this is an ugly fight because he's a Spartan or something.
Well, he's using a little short sword and a giant shield, so it would make sense.
Well, he's also very aggressive and very fast. I think
you get him in the arm here. Is that?
Yeah. So what you have to do with him, right, is he will push the shield forward like he should, right, and try to get it onto your sword, and then he will do that move right there, right. So he's trying to like beat and scoop.
Yeah.
And I should have gotten him right here, right. I should have waited for that.
Yeah, because you're in your good place. His blade is past you. Your sword is
right. I should have been able to get him right there, but I had already tagged him, right, and I thought I had got him on the chest, but it was his arm. He's going to put the shield down in just a sec.
I will say that I do think
it's good because I'm really a lot better at going forward than I am backwards, and he's basically bull rush and go.
Well, and it can be interesting when you have two fighters that both want to go forward.
I mean, it's usually a lot more fun to watch anyway, as opposed to people want to go backwards.
Yeah, we will see what happens here at slow-mo.
I think he said that was in his scarf or his garb or something.
Okay, so it's a double kill here, I think.
No, I think he got me. Because I committed to that one shot and I thought I got him down there, and he said no, and so I got him. He got me up.
Okay.
So that one is one. This is a fight I should have curbed my aggression, or I should have used it quicker, right, to push him back and not let him come forward.
Do it again.
Yeah, I don't remember.
This is a messy fight a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is with the stick, I'm very comfortable banging real close, right? The back and forth sort of dirty boxing is pretty easy with the stick. It just, it will. I mean, Usually the bruises that I come home with are scrapes on my knuckles.
Oh, that makes sense because no
Not
guard on it.
but not hit, right? It's always scraping against something or banging against someone's.
Looks like you got him in the leg.
Yeah. I see he's real quick with that shield, right? Because that shot I had was dead center, and he pulled it all the way down to his leg.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. I don't think I've ever fought anyone with a shield quite like that. At least not in a like I've done it in melees, but not in a tournament.
No, it's a challenging fight for sure.
Okay, let's see. Let's do.
I think there was a question in the chat.
Okay.
How do you deal with rushing dagger fighters? Okay, so the trick is you deal with them just like you same way you would deal with if you had a dagger as well, right? Because the sword is fast enough that I've gone dagger to sword pretty easily. And if they're bum rushing me with a dagger, then I would 9 times out of 10 try to twist away because they're just coming straight forward. So I'll use my footwork to try and twist away. At the same time, right? It's not difficult to get the sword to get the stick to lock the dagger up, right? Because if you can get the sword on the hilt of the dagger, then you can feel on the stick how they're pushing it around and how they're trying to get through, and the sword is light enough that it's fast enough, or the stick is light enough that it's fast enough that you can react to the dagger without much trouble.
I'll say one thing is that is a dagger fighter. I don't like to get into dagger range because then the fight is random. So it's like it ends up in a double kill. So I would advise against it if you were fighting someone who just has a buckler or a stick or if you have someone, I mean, it's just like being that close can have problems either way. So it's just got to be careful about it.
Yeah,
so
it's more dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't want so I don't want someone rushing me with, I don't care what I have. I don't want someone in my shorts either way. So it's kind of the same thing, I think, a little bit.
See, the biggest challenge for using the stick, counterpunchers, because they so I want to be aggressive and I want to use the stick to push my way in and create an opening. Counterpunchers will do almost anything to keep me from doing that and then wait for me to extend. So they will outpatience me a lot of times. That's the danger for that. That's probably the biggest challenge with it. This is Master Johan or Sir Johan.
Sir Johan, yeah.
Sir Johan.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I think this fight is a good example of this. Something that I think you do really well is you control a field really well, and you put people in corners with your aggression. It's something I've actually tried to steal from you in my own fight.
All right, so
you're backing him up here, cutting him off.
Right. Well, that wasn't originally my plan here. So the thing to remember is, well, okay, go back real quick. Did you?
I went back to watch this shot slow-mo, but
okay. So the way I control a fight, especially if someone like him, right? So he wants to be a little bit aggressive and he wants to set up and sort of have his attack be a certain angle, right? And he wants to start it farther away and then come in. Is I get to the range that I want to do, and then I stay there. And I use that, and I do that by using smaller steps, right? Because the step can be a forward, it can be an oblique, it can be a backwards, or it can be a forwards. But I try to get to a place where they always feel threatened, but at the same time aren't always going to try to attack. If that makes any sense. It does in my head. So I want to be at a place where I can attack, but not one that gives them an advantage, right? So if they're in my range, and my range being a range that I don't know what the name of it is, cat is like advanced hit, right? It's basically a tempo and a half, right? So if I can close and hit, then they're in range. But I want to be in that spot, and I want to be in the orientation I want to be, right? So if he tries to move around, like he started circling it first, right, to get some space, to not feel threatened for a minute. And I was like, he's running away. I want to get right up in him and have an advantage. That was a simple. That was a simple attack that was disengaged under his buckler that he smashed down into his knee.
Well, and I think he throws, and you do, and I think this is your probably most common parry, is a cross parry with your stick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then you hit him. Yeah, and then you throw low, and he knocks it down into his leg, I think.
Yeah. So I was trying to come up underneath it, but I didn't get all the correct angle. And this is academic, right? Because he can't move his range. Well, here is a good example, right? I'm not going to close with him all the way, but I'm going to use my smaller steps to be exactly the range that I want to be, based on not where my feet are, but where I can reach. Right? Because watch, I'll throw the stick first. Or he does it, yeah. So I move my foot.
Yeah.
See there? And then now I've got him, right? So he's not. I mean, his buckler is fast, but it's not like sword fast.
Well, I think because you don't do a ton of lunging, right? You do like little steps, is what you're saying. And I think this has the advantage of this is, right, you have more decision points because you're not committing a long tempo with a lunge. You're saying, exactly. I'll take 3 small steps, and each one of those I could change my mind about what I'm doing, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's a difference for a lot of people too, though, right? But the reason I can do that is because I also practiced. Remember, I talked about I also talked about being able to move forward and backwards quickly, right? So because I can do that, I don't have to lunge to cover distance, right? So the only reason I do lunge is if I actually want distance, not because I need timing or because I need to beat someone to something, but it's because I have to cover distance. And because I can cover distance with steps, then I don't have to lunge. I can have all those decision points in there, and I can wait for them to make a big decision, like a big movement, and capitalize on that using a smaller movement.
So there's another question says,
okay.
Do you practice point control from various off stance positions?
No, but it would be good to do that, right? Before every event, I will do a sort of, I'll find a post, usually a tent pole or one of the list fences, and I will do disengages, disengage, hit the post, disengage, hit the post, right? And I'll do that for a few times, and then I'll do that while I'm doing all the different steps, right? A forward, a backward, a side, an oblique, and then different patterns, right? Just so that I can feel, right? And it's a feel for getting it knowing where the tip is going to be, and getting the timing, getting the feel in my arm and everything. But it's not necessarily practicing a tip control drill. But that is one thing that I do have to knock the rust off when I go back to an event after a time, is getting that back.
That makes sense. I'll go ahead and watch this one with you and Davius. Oh, there's another question. Do you play sports, soccer, some other high level before you started fencing?
Not at a high level, but I played baseball and basketball and soccer and softball and all kinds of sports for sure.
Cool. So go ahead and. So do you want to?
Oh, this is Davius.
Yeah. Do you want to also talk about your relationship fighting lefties?
No. I hate them. They're the devil. So all of the way that I think, right, is orienting myself towards the sword and controlling range and everything, and creating openings. And it's a mind pattern, right? That's how my brain works. Then you use the stick, use the sword, control range, and that kind of thing. And all of that changes just enough to where I can do it right and still lose to a left-hander, right? Because they have the disengage up the center that shouldn't be there if they're right-handed. And I hate it because I've lost to a number of lefties, not because I was a bad fencer or they were a better fencer than me, but I just didn't do the right thing to account for them being left-handed. And so I'll complain at them and I'll yell at them all the time and be like, you're evil and you only win because you're lefty and, made a deal with the devil or whatever. But it's really frustration on my part for not doing it right, for not reorienting myself. And what I do is normally you would orient yourself towards someone's center line, right? Like that's where their pattern is. But you're also when you're doing that, if you're doing that for a right-hander, right, you're whether you're meaning to or not, you're orienting yourself towards their front shoulder, which is their right shoulder, right? So the range is based on their right shoulder with the way they're extending the arm. The left-hander, right, is different because it's a different shoulder forward. So the way I try to reorient myself and get ready for these fights is to focus on their front shoulder and not their center line or their mask or their head, because that tends to tighten the range up and make it a little bit, at least take some of the learning curve off of it to get where I'm fighting the way I should. Well, so it's you focus on the same part of their body as you would, but even if you're not meaning to, right? Because their left shoulder is closer to you than their right shoulder would be.
Well, and I think you can see even in this frame here that your hand is a little bit more over towards your right, to like block out his line. So you're just trying to move
because they all love that outside shot, right? Because it's there for a lot of them.
And then someone else had a question. Do you do any specific drills / training to prevent yourself from automatically hitting your opponent with your stick? I think you think it's a sword or a dagger, so you just like automatically.
I don't have to do that. No, I don't. It's part of my brain enough that it's a parrying device, and that I want to hit their sword more than I want to hit them. So it's not really in there for me like to stab with a sword. It's just not something I have to worry about. Maybe. Yeah. Now, if I'm really rusty and get out of control, the danger is there to whack them when I'm trying to parry if I'm too close. Yeah. But that's just intermittent. That's just
I think that a lot, since so much of us are mostly fight with daggers, right? And we pick up a stick. Our left hand is trained when someone gets close to stab them.
To stab them, right? As it should be. Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you don't do that, then it's not something you would have to worry about.
Exactly.
Clear question. It seems like against the lefty, you would lose some of your parrying ability against their sword. Your sword thrust. Is this true?
Yes, it is absolutely true. So the aggressive parries that I do, like when I close to engage their sword with my stick, is a lot harder, and it actually loses you tempo, which is another frustrating thing about fighting.
No, go ahead and play this.
Okay. So you'll notice he does a really good job of the cross parry with his dagger. Okay, the dagger is like a mile long, but it's devious.
Yep. It looks like he just left his center line open and you just hit
it. So if you slow it down, I'll show you what happens.
Slow right here.
I did a feint. So for me, a feint is usually a step, right? So I'll do it. I think it's next. Right, so I did a feint. Too far. Okay, so right there. Okay, that's a feint for me. I'm trying to get him to do something, right? Oh no, I'm sorry. You got to go back a little bit farther. I'm sorry. You go back just a little bit farther. Right to one shot before this. One shot before this.
Hold on. Let me take it out of slow real quick. Whoops, too fast. I think that was the shot before.
Okay, right. Slow down. Okay. So right. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. In my brain, I can see it when it happened. Right there. Okay. He did not react to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So he didn't retreat. He didn't readjust his range or his dagger or anything. And so now I'm like, well, his center line is way open, and he is not acting like I'm in range.
So it's like a probing step. You're like, hey, what are you going to do?
Right.
And then he gave you the range you need, and you just hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually not a very deep lunge, even though I did left my feet. Like that was not a good thing. I was actually shocked that shot landed, right? Because when he did do anything, like, whoa, you're not okay.
Yeah.
He actually cursed at himself after this one, and he called himself Mike, his mundane name, and I had no idea that was his mundane name. So he was like, Mike, damn it, and I'm like, who's Mike? Did you just call me Mike? What?
That's news to me. Okay, considering the difference, this is another question. Considering the
Okay.
difference in line from left and right, does fighting a lefty dominant case fighter pose a greater difficulty for you than fighting a right dominant one?
If I think about it, no, because if there's a case fighter, unless he's doing the Davies thing and only using that right hand for parrying, there's way bigger chance for him to lunge with his right hand, right? Which is great for me, right? Because I'll take that all the way over to my right side, right? So I'll take it all the way over here with my stick, and then I can come in on his oblique and do that thing that lefties do to other people, right? So if he has a sword in his right hand, then it's way better for me.
So you would
to try and get him and twist him offline.
So just to be clear, if you're fighting lefty, you'd rather them have two swords than one.
Absolutely, because then I can manipulate the one in his right hand with my stick and move him around to where way easier to get him to where I want him to be.
I think that makes sense.
I know it's counterintuitive, but
no. Let's see. Okay, another lefty. You against?
Oh my god, this one was exhausting. Taurus is exhausting to fight in general.
I agree. Just as like all the good fighters are.
Not as exhausting as Boomy.
I'll second that as well. So interesting. Let's watch that again. So let's see. So he denies down with sword. Yeah. So I think this is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like you do another little probing step here, right? And then you lunge off of or go off.
So this one is a lot bigger, right? This probing step, it is a probing step, but I'm actually not probing here. I'm actually trying to get closer to him. I wanted him to back up, but not too far. He actually parried and came forward, which surprised me. You can tell by my body language that I'm surprised he came forward. Right. So I went down for his foot, right? So I wanted him to put him in a little bit defensive, and then I wanted to follow that up. See how my back foot is coming forward? Right. So I wanted to gather there. I wanted to gather there and come forward again. But he riposted and came back at me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think because you're right. You don't look like you wanted to be that close.
I did not. I wanted to be closer because I was too far away for what I wanted to do. Right. But if I had only been lunging, I would have been able to do that at all. And that was really close, and that took me back out. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
See him? I see him cocking his elbow back right there. He's trying to come in for that long one. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna catch it when it comes in and try to riposte back over the top of it, which sucks for me because I'd rather catch it with my stick, but I'm like, no, I gotta catch with sword. So you're just covering over there. Now right there, I wanted to repost back in. I wanted to cork my wrist back up to his center line, but I couldn't get it.
Well, he's threatening, like he's keeping his left out to try to. He's trying to keep you from coming in by denying his blade, I think.
He is. He does that a lot.
Yeah.
He does that very well. I'll say that. That's the way I should put that.
Yes, I'd agree with that as well.
Don't actually remember how this ended.
You win at the end, but I don't remember exactly how it happened.
I remember seeing him slip right there, and I was like, "Oh, I got him! Damn it! Stab him while he slipped."
It's always annoying when they slip out of range, right?
Right. They should slip while we're close. So we can stab.
I think this is an example of what you're talking about, avoiding someone's dagger, right? Like he comes in, not necessarily to kill you with his dagger, but you sidestep, right? So you just let him go by.
Yeah. And so right there, right, I got into the position where I thought I wanted to circle right, but then he went right as well, so I had to circle back to the other side. So I even though it looked clunky, I didn't really ever feel unsafe or out of bounds right there.
No, that makes sense.
At this point, I'm breathing very hard.
also the finals, so it's fair.
That's true. That's true. Oof, that was real close.
Yeah, let's see it again. We'll go one slower. So you throw, he throws. Looks like it goes past your shoulder.
Yep.
And then you counter back in. Yeah, he
Yep.
got a little over his front foot, I think. There.
Yep. Right, and that's a danger for me too. Right, I try to avoid that. But yeah, I'm very comfortable with that second riposte. Not necessarily not against Tours, but in general.
See, I'm gonna go back and we're gonna watch this one against finals of Ruby Joust against Dante.
Dante, I remember this fight.
So
this was hotter than a bull's testicle. Like, oh my god.
So and we've touched on this a little bit, but one of my questions I have is here is, do you like to have like a lot of knowledge of your fighter, of your opponent before you go in and like kind of know their tendencies and stuff, or does it not matter to you either way?
Oh, I like to know as much as possible.
No, that's
Not just about who I'm fighting and the way that they fight, but how they're fighting that day. Right. That's why I always stay near the list field to watch how they're fighting. See if they're on, see if they're losing or winning, with low effort or high effort. See if they're like, a lot of times people will have an off day and get locked into certain tendencies, and you can be able to pick up on those. But yeah, no, I like to have as much information as possible, both strategic but now the temptation is to say that, oh, I have a plan going in. If he does this, I'm going to do that. No, this, I'm going to do that. I would never want to be locked in like that. Like have a specific thing I'm going to do, but I do want broad knowledge, right? I do want sort of knowledge points. Like he is fighting really fast today, or he's fighting really slow today, or he fights really tall. So general things to keep in mind and to understand about how he's fighting, but not like I'm going to do this, then do this, and do this, and do this, and get locked into something where I have to do that. So that's just knowledge that you take into the fight. Now, honestly, like at Penzig or whatever, I really don't necessarily feel uncomfortable going in without knowing someone. But if I don't know someone, then then the first little bit of the fight is me finding stuff out. Right? Are they twitchy? Are they counterpunchy or anything like that? Did someone ask a question? Sorry.
Someone did ask a question. They said, are you a fighter that always fights your best, or do you fight a beta to fight if you know you can have a better chance of beating their beta? I think, like, do you want against like best against best, or are you like, well, I'm gonna fight my B game because I know that could beat their B game, and like manipulate the fight in that way? I think is what the question means.
So this is actually something that I've talked about a lot, and so in conjunction with having as much knowledge of the fight as possible, going into a fight and fighting your best, right? Your best meaning doing whatever it takes to win the fight. And you don't know what that is going forward, right? You don't know if that's going to be a simple thing, a more complex thing, or a high level thing, or an easy thing. But going into a fight and having all of your tools available to you if you need them at a moment's notice to win the fight, that I consider a skill in and of itself. Okay. So I say, if I'm going to go into a fight where I want to win and I'm putting everything, people call it a game, or they can call it whatever they want to, but it is a skill that you have to engage in. Now, can I fight down to a person or fight lazy if I need to conserve energy? Absolutely. But when I need to say, all right, I'm going to win this fight, or put forward the best of my ability to win this fight, that is something I've cultivated in myself, and I try to teach other people to do too, right? It's not mean to do that. It's not mean to say, go out and do your best, right? Do whatever you can to win this fight, be it complex, be it simple, whatever it needs to be. But that is something that you have to train for physically, you have to train for mentally, and you have to train for it emotionally too, right? Because it's something that you have to ramp yourself up to. You can't just walk out and do it all the time. It gets easier if you treat it as a skill and as an activity, as opposed to I hope I'm in the right mood today, right? If it's something the more deliberate you are about it, the easier it gets. But that is something that I practice and do deliberately and cultivate as a skill.
I super agree with that. I think a lot of people like they want to fight whatever they're best at against whatever their opponent is best at.
Mhm.
And to me, it's like, well, no, I want to fight whichever way will win.
So that's another thing, right? If you look at high level fighters, or people who have had a lot of success, right? Outside of a few outliers who do one thing very, very well, right? Like I'm 7 feet tall and I have super strong arms, right? I can do that really, really well, and I can rely on that, and I can win a ton of fights. Cool. But aside from the physical outliers and the people who do one thing really, really well, every top level fighter, a key to their game is adaptability on the fly,
Hmm.
right? To be able to do what needs to be done in that moment or in that fight, not necessarily have to go and train. And if you're not taking every advantage of your height and strength, then you're not doing it right. So whatever. But if you look at the high level fighters, you will always see a level of adaptability that they have grown in themselves to be able to deal with whatever is in front of them.
Yep. Super agree with that. So we'll go ahead and watch some of this fight. So go back and watch that slow-mo real quick.
Oh man, I missed that entirely.
So it looks like he tries to do a big envelop of your sword, and you
Yeah,
disengage it really nice and hit
yeah.
him over it.
So he'd had a giant motion there, and I just kind of rode through it.
Yeah.
But I knew that cross step dagger was coming.
Yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah, you're a good point. Another example of how to deal with someone who wants to dagger rush you, right? I guess.
Yeah. No, he was setting up the dagger. He also really likes to fight from a set base, like a concrete kind of like a
Hmm.
turret kind of thing going on. And then he's going to launch from there. And so I was able to get my sword around and inside of his dagger parry too.
I like the spin afterwards as well. It's very nice.
I mean, there was a dagger coming.
Yeah. Never too careful, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that one stuck. The reason I spun was because I stuck him pretty hard, because it was a quick
Yeah, yeah.
and when I had at the angle I had, I couldn't break it very much.
Yeah,
It
it was
was
like you were
all
trying to
on the
pull it
lip.
off. Yeah, it totally
Just
makes sense.
oblique.
I got zoomed in here
Oh,
for
zoom in. All right, here we go.
some
This is way better.
Okay, so I think he gets you on the second point. Oh, watch this
Mhm.
real quick.
Yeah, I don't remember how this shot landed. He caught my sword with his dagger, and he used my coming forward to
Yeah.
roll through. Right, like that's a classic Capoferro sort of
Hmm.
triangle in, right?
And it looks like you get a little overextended right
Right.
here, a little
So
over your front, like over your front foot.
what he did there, but pay attention to his footwork here. Okay,
Hmm.
go back.
Back.
Okay, watch him retreat, and then all of a sudden retreat with just one leg.
Oh yeah.
See, that's what he did there. He did that. That was a very, very good shot. So he had my range coming forward, and he had stopped his range and come.
Hmm. He also builds a good wall here too with his
Yeah,
hands.
absolutely. Yep.
So we were talking about what you do earlier. Yeah. Very well done.
And that snuck in too, right? Like
Hmm.
that I almost got my stick back across the parry, and he actually corked it at the last minute to get me
Yeah.
right on the hip.
You, just for people who don't know it, like when you fight Dominyk, there's times where you're sure you've hit him, like you would have hit anyone else, and then his stick just comes and takes it off at the last minute, which I, which is funny, but I also think that it helps people overextend into you because they're like, oh, I just got you, and then
Yeah. No, and that's fine too, right? Like I was talking about before, the stick doesn't threaten people.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of times like my whole center line or center left torso will look wide open to them, right? And I'm not worried about it because I know that I have this giant fast parry that I can just bring in.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's worked, right? People feel overconfident.
that was exactly my feeling fighting you the first time in a pickup. I was like, oh, I can just whip shots in here, and I couldn't. So I like it.
Oh man, it was so hot the other day. And humid. It was so humid.
Perfect tourney weather.
No.
I swear that site is like closer to the sun.
Yes. All right. So this one I remembered distinctly, right? He was trying to get that same thing and he kept getting his dagger, his sword horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he did that, I knew I had it, right?
Oh yeah, you mean
that right?
Yeah.
As soon as he did that, I was like, oh, he's going to do that. He's going to try for that whole thing again. And I just disengaged around it. See, right? Yoink.
Yeah. I think you also sell like you're gonna go high. Like I think your point is high here over his dagger, and then you drop it in low right at the end. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
And then cover with the stick at the end.
Right. I mean, if it's a horizontal parry versus a super quick sword, and that's my the rapier foil too. So that was pretty quick coming in under there.
We actually didn't. We talked about your stick, but we didn't talk about what sword length and style you like to use. That's another thing I had as a question to ask.
Is there a question? I'm sorry.
So that was my question to start with. There is this question. It is interesting fighting against your stick versus other people who use a cane. I think yours is lighter and faster. Most people seem to want a heavier actual cane. It does not move nearly as fast.
Yeah, I think so. Most people go for this. They think stick. They think club. Right. I'm going to use this club to beat the sword out of the way. And they also tend to think stick sword. Two things. Whereas in where I have to think of it as like one sort of effort.
Yeah, integrated, right? Like, yeah. I will also say like it's a dowel rod, right? Like that's what.
Yeah, it's just a dowel. I went to well, the two that were given to me. One is engraved, and one of them is painted with the word stick on it in Latin.
Yeah.
And that is broken, but I still have it. I'm probably going to frame it and put it up in Australia and tell stories about it when people come over and visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a pine dowel rod for get at Lowe's or Home Depot. Was there another question?
Do you feel like you are much faster than average? From these videos, I can't tell.
I used to be. When I first started, I was probably one of the fastest people that I would ever fight, and I won a lot of fights with just speed. But that's not how I fight. So I am fast, yes. I would say yes. But I get a lot more mileage out of varying my speeds than I do from being straight up fast. Right. So if I can go slow, fast, or retreat fast forward, that's a way better advantage than doing everything fast. But I do use speed in small bits, like each of the smaller adjustments I use with my feet are pretty fast if taken in just that small microcosm. So I use speed to put pressure and to make people feel threatened, but not to like rush at them and make them feel overwhelmed. I rarely will use a volume speed attack.
I think, what I'll say is, I think you fight like a lot of people when someone says, "Oh, this person's fast," is they mean that like they throw like one really fast shot like at their head or something.
Their lunge is really fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually that's what they mean. I feel like your speed is more like it's like your side to side hand speed is really good for like your defense, and then your feet covering, making little short steps, like you're saying. So it's like you are faster than average, but it's used very differently than the way most people use it.
So I would say that I use speed as a tool and just not necessarily like integrated with everything else, right? I'm not just fast at things.
Well, I don't, and for the record, I don't think anyone who is actually high end is just fast, because that takes away all of the, like there's so much more than goes into it, right?
Oh, but to be fair, like when I was younger, right, I definitely won fights just because I could do the basics faster than the person across from me. I mean, that happens.
Yeah. Avery says not just straight speed, but more efficient use of smaller movements.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Efficient. I would say that I try to be efficient more than I try to be fast.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And in a sense, they're functionally the same at the end, right? Like,
It seems fast to the other person, right?
yes.
If I want to, I can throw. I can make. I can.
Uh-huh.
I've actually gotten the comment a number of times, like after a pickup fight, that let's say something like fighting you is like fighting 3 pickup fights in a small period of time,
Mhm.
and it's because that I use the speed to put pressure on them.
Mhm.
But you know what? You can also use speed to be lazy,
Oh yeah.
right? So I can just be like, all right, well, I only want to throw 1 killing fast blow, so I can just go slow, go slow. There's the opening and hit it real fast, and then it's over.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's boring unless you're exhausted, and then that's what happens.
Great for bear pit tournaments.
Oh yeah, good call. Good call.
All right. So here's one of your many champ fights you have won
Okay.
against the Penzik. So this is another one I think, and I've actually shown this on my video review night. This is a good example of
Oh,
someone.
I missed that. Damn.
Yeah, you were on that one. This is a good example of you also controlling the field. And actually, I'll tell us a real quick story here. I talked. This is MT. He's from the East Kingdom.
Mhm.
He asked me before this fight, like what should he do
Okay.
against, and so I told him he needed to stay out in the middle of the field and use his length because he's 6'3", 6'4", and use his
He's
length.
deceptively tall, I guess.
Yes. And he kind of has, his shots are a little deceptive too. So as I felt like, it's like, Dom's going to hunt you down and put you in a corner and then you're going to die. And so I said, don't let him put you in the corner.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Yeah. Well, you put everyone in the corner. So,
you know when that started? Do you ever fight Kenji? Go pause real quick.
I did fight. I fought Kenji.
Kenji is one of the most patient people I have ever met. And like these small steps that I would use to control range, he would mirror them like to an exact T, and that is incredibly frustrating. And so I would be like, all right, damn it. I would put him against the hay bales, or I'd put him in the corner of the gymnasium so he couldn't retreat and run away anymore. And so I was chasing Kenji around the gym that I learned a lot of this stuff.
That actually makes 110% having fought the fighter you're talking about.
All right, so going into this fight, I hadn't fought him in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd heard a lot that he had gotten a lot better. So this is also, I was staying at range, at a safe range, but I was trying to move him around, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was still waiting for him to show me how he was fighting, right? Because he was a little bit pulling back. All right, so he's coming back. Now there's a shot.
But if you look, he's walking himself back into this corner of this field here.
No, he's actually trying to spin around left, and I'm not letting him.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back.
Yeah. Did I go back far enough? No, I didn't need to go back a little farther. Yeah, right
so
here.
He really wanted to go around to my right, to his left, and I pushed him back to get him going that way. I remember thinking to doing that. All right, so this next shot, right? This shot gets really close to my face. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right there. Okay. And he did it twice, right? Okay, you'll see me just sort of back out. I didn't riposte at all, right? At that point, I had his range, right? I knew how far he could lunge at me, and how far, and what he was going to try and do, right? He's going to try and stick at that range, come back from the hip, and try to throw in, right? So all I had to do at that point was to get him to throw that shot again, which I did by getting him back farther into corner and have Davies back there with a stick going, "Don't come back here."
Yeah, and you look, he throws super deep center, and you cross parry and just hit him all day.
Yeah. I barely had to move.
Yeah.
I didn't have to extend hard at all.
That's super good point about, or interesting about you getting the read on his range here. I think that's an undervalued thing. If you show someone, if you kind of get a feel for their range and their speed they're throwing it, then it becomes easy to defend and kill them at that point.
Right. Now he told me later that he thought that he was close, but I felt very safe in that. I know that sounds really bad, like it sounds arrogant, but I was waiting for that shot to come so that I could tell how far away he was.
Well, I think one thing I think he should have done is these close shots here. He probably could have used this moment to maybe get himself some more space.
He could have. Yeah, he could have definitely got out of there.
He did not do that. Yeah.
No. At the same time, right? I'm up here. I'm like he's probing, right? He thinks he can get close right there. I'm just kind of waving it away, but I was also watching for him to to like try and readjust, right? Because then I could have
Mhm.
pounced on him if he'd have
That's
shown
a
him.
good point. Good point. I'll watch this one more time.
Okay.
I do really like this. This is one of my. It's so satisfying when you get someone to throw where you want and you can just parry and riposte.
Yep.
Probably
Exactly.
one of the best.
Yep. That was a good fight.
Whoops.
He's an excellent fighter, though.
Yes. Let's see. What did we have? What do I want to watch next? Oh, this is another Penzik champ, so watch this one. This is against Azriel, I believe, from the mid realm.
Yes.
I also told her what she should do before this fight as well.
I think she got me on one of these, didn't she?
You guys double kill and then you beat her at the end.
Okay.
So what was did you have an approach going into this fight? Do you remember? This was a few years ago, so.
I remember telling myself to be patient because she was just going to bounce around outside of range a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe she's Olympic trained. Armand, my goodness. I think was that the double kill?
Let's go. I don't. No, I think there was. She looked like you checked your tip.
Okay.
The marshal is conveniently in the way.
Yeah, I remember this video from before, like the marshal was a kid right now.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is the double kill. We'll watch it here. Okay, looks like she just, yeah, you both just kind of throw. She
Yeah.
gets just inside your stick here on the inside.
Yeah.
And then yours hits.
No, she got me with the other one. She got me with the other one, the second hand.
You think so? I don't think it gets that close.
Oh, I thought I remembered that happening. Oh, okay. It's been a long time.
It looks like you can see her sword blade bending right here.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree. She is a high energy fighter.
Yeah. This is the only time I fought her in the last like 4 or 5 years.
Well, skip ahead to the.
What did you tell her about fighting me? Just at this point. Oh yeah, this is the one when she came over. And was,
I told her similar stuff to what I told MT. Is I said don't let like you do very well when you're going forward, right? And so I said like try to not let him just like back you down into a corner, and don't let like I like to put you on your heels if I'm fighting you.
Yep.
Because I don't want you to be doing what you're best at, which is pushing me backwards, right?
Sure.
But actually, I have a question about that. I'll get to in a second.
Okay.
Probably watch this fight, then I'll get asked that question actually, since it is relevant.
Marshall got to be right up in the whole business.
Yep. Very active marshalling.
That's the worst.
He got her arm. Okay.
Yeah. Once I took her arm, I was just going to be like, meh.
Yeah. Can you see it?
So once I took her arm, I was just like, all right. Well, I closed a little bit and just took her sword with my stick.
Okay, right here. So you get her elbow. Yeah, and then 2 weapons against 1. Yeah.
Yeah, just like once I knocked it offline, it was just
So, yeah, one question that I have written down is, what do you think your weaknesses are? We've covered some of this. What do you think your weaknesses are, and what is like the secret to beating you? It's always an interesting question to ask high-end fighters, I think.
It was the secret to beating you?
Yeah, what's the secret to beating you? Yeah. What do you think works best against yourself?
Be tall and left-handed.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. I think you can out-patience me a lot. I like coming forward. I like mixing it up. I like getting into the fight because that's sort of the what I like to do. So if you can control range, riposte, be defensive, and then hit me on a counter attack. That's usually the best way to get me. The other way to do it is to get me going backwards or not let me come forward. Volume attacks will get closer to 50-50 with me to like overwhelm my stick or my sword hand. That's probably the best way to do it. The other way is to this kind of will. So I won a ton of fights if I think about it. By continuing, like that goes back to the whole like not lunging thing, right? So I'll throw a shot, like a deep shot, even and it's not a lunge because I'm advancing, and so they'll parry it and they'll do a riposte, and I'll parry the riposte, and a lot of people will think, okay, well then now we will reset, right? I won a lot of shots by continuing after that and making them go, oh, I'm still uncomfortable, and continue to parry, right? So I would think that I get a lot of fights that way. Like I like to like open them up and keep fighting and extend the fight. I feel like if more people kept it in their mind that the fight is not going to stop after their first two intentions, then they would do a lot better against my style of fighting. So like after you're in B range and you back out, when you want to like just back out and get out and set up again, know that like I can see you doing that and I'm pouncing on you as you're trying to do that. So keeping that in mind, and that will thwart me a lot. Yeah.
So let's see. Armand says, I want to know what John thinks Dom's weakness is.
Yeah. Was John think Dom's
I don't know if weakness is the right word, but the way I like to fight you is like I said, is like I like to. I don't want you to put me. I don't want to be on my heels. I want to see if I can like put you on your heels, and usually that means counter stepping into your attack. So I like to take a step to my right at an angle, but try to throw center line. And so to step into your attack, and then I keep in my back pocket that if you choose to deny my sword with your sword, then I don't go for it as my original intention, but I remember that I still have the dagger. And
you do the dagger.
Yeah. So if we've stepped close and you've denied, our swords are out of the picture, then I step in for the dagger, or I try to get the angle in. That's been my success.
I remember almost hitting you with the stick in the head one time, parrying the dagger. That was.
To me, that would have been if you hit me in the head with the stick, but I still won the fight. Okay, I'll take it.
Well, I don't know if you'd have won anything. It could have been concussion, but whatever.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, I totally didn't do that. That was totally a fight. Yes, everyone signed the waiver. It's fine.
Yeah. So, actually, there is a fight of us. There is a video of us fighting. On this
Is that
video.
the Rose one that you won and then didn't win the whole tournament?
I did not win the whole tournament, but I did win
like a chump.
The fight. Yeah. But this is gonna watch you and Miguel.
Okay.
Younger Miguel from Onstio.
Oh, this is the one where a bug flew in my mouth, in my mask.
I forgot about that, but I do remember that.
Yeah, no. Halfway through this fight, would pull off my mask and like hack up a bug out of my mouth. This is really cool. Shot of Mike's butt.
Yeah.
Move sideways.
It looks like you get him there. I don't think that's worth. No, not really.
No. I don't think that was. Oh, maybe he saluted.
Yeah.
Wait, this been 2 out of 3? I don't remember.
It was 2 out of 3. Yeah, I slow mode it. Oh yeah, I forgot that. I can't tell what happened because his.
That was I hit him in the head as I was coming out.
Yeah.
But it was a wrist flick as I was going out. For some reason, in this fight, he was really into the whole Anstioran scoop and fling. He normally.
I don't think that's a good like. That doesn't. Wouldn't do that against you. I don't think that works.
I mean, I wish you would do it more. Man, I'm just seeing wild parries on either side of him, his body. I'm like, I need to tighten up my parries, man.
From a fight from 4 years ago.
Yeah, here it is. Oh no, that's the end. Where was the bug?
I think it was. This was not a great fight to watch from the angle, but I think it was back. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Watch, I pull off my mask. There, like a bug was in my mask and flew in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, now the one from you from the same
Yeah, we can watch that real
tournament,
quick.
is that, it's not from the same angle, is it?
It's a better angle. We can watch
Okay,
that.
okay, watch that one.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the angle. I should have remembered that angle was bad on that video. I remember it being a good fight watching it in person from a better angle. But-
Okay, so pause it. While you were watching that fight, who did you want to win?
between you and Mike,
Yeah.
I probably wanted Mike to win, if I'm being honest. But it was close.
Because you're interviewing me, or just because?
No, because Mike's my brother. Mike is my brother for anyone who is on this
Yeah.
doesn't know.
Yeah, they're twins.
Yeah, exactly. Super twins. Identical.
Twins.
Even.
Yeah, identical. Yeah.
We fight exactly the same as well.
All right. So I remember thinking right here, right? If you watch my left hand, my stick is really twitchy because you were threatening that, but you were threatening it from like, you're threatening my offside, but like from a mile away. I could tell it was coming.
I wanted to watch
I was trying to orient that way, but it was just too fast.
This is an example of, I think, of where I feel like the stick kind of parries. It's not that it's late. It's just that I feel like my point gets closer to you than against other people before the parry intersects my weapon. Does that make sense?
So here's what I'm doing wrong, and here's my counter to that when I think about it. Okay, so in most people, when I fight most people, right, I can get away with having the stick sort of perpendicular or horizontal, right? What I should have is I should have it pointed more at an angle. So I should pick up your sword closer to where, if the stick was a sword, I should pick it up closer to the fork, right towards the end. But I got too up and down, so you were
You
able
mean
to,
like kind of like this angle, right?
right. No. But no. So point it towards me. Point towards me.
Or,
okay. So like here's my finger, right?
Well, turn it sideways to the camera so we can see better.
I'm gonna. Okay. So now here's where it is, right? I want it more this angle and less of this. So more like here, and so I can pick it up and move it with
okay.
this part of the sword, as opposed to up here where I'm doing back and forth like a windshield wiper.
Someone asked, how is your block with the stick on the leg?
The leg?
How do you block your leg with your stick, I assume is the answer.
Okay, so if someone's throwing at my front leg, it's the other side. So I don't really have to cover that side. I can usually move my leg out of the way. And really people don't shoot from my back leg with that on that side. So covering my legs is really never a problem with the stick itself. Because if someone's going for my legs, I can usually pick it up farther away from me enough to move my leg or tack over top of it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that was an excellent shot. Well done.
I don't think that lands.
Really? Well, that was an excellent parry for me.
Because I think I come just short. You cross. Yeah. I deny down.
Yeah.
Back.
So what I wanted to do better there was to bring my sword into your center line between your dagger and your sword, but I got caught in your sword that time as opposed to coming around. And I can tell you're doing it again, right? Because you're trying to either come outside or inside. See that? Yeah. At that point, I was paranoid, and that was a good shot.
I think this one we ended up being a double, but
okay. Yep. That's right. I did. the fake disc cracked me up.
But this is the shot. So I didn't get the parry, but this is the shot I like to take, where I throw center line but step in, kind of. I just didn't, because he gets his sword right here at the end. I didn't block.
Yeah, I wanted to pick that up way farther away from me.
Yeah.
Than I did. What was that?
It was a double.
Oh, okay. Now, when you do that, right, your forehead comes right across my vision, and I want to hit it every time, but I've never been able to get it.
Yeah, I wanted to see this lunge real quick.
Now, see that lunge to me is the most frightening, right? Because you're starting this lunge and you can go outside or inside or up with it, right? And I'm too close to you to pick that up to make you make that decision before it's too late for me.
You do a really nice job of pulling. Well, I target your midline away from the blade. You kind of make this C shape. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can see in my body language that I expected that to land.
Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful lunge. Whoever said that is right.
I guess that didn't land either.
No, both of those missed. I remember both of us going,
Let's watch
oh,
those.
that was close.
Let's watch these again then. Did I go too far back? Yeah, stick parry. Yeah, see, this is what I was saying earlier. It's like you just get the stick on so much. Yep, there again.
And it's very easy, right? The stick is not very heavy.
Yeah.
But it's solid all the way through, right?
And you can see I just went past you.
And I went past your neck.
Yeah.
Right. And so we both back out and we just going, ah.
Yeah, because my point, like you can see
it's
it
over there.
out over there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember this exchange and being like, how did no one die?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
The marshal was like, what? And we're like, nah, nothing.
Okay, we'll show this. Well, someone asked, let's see, how do you look? Asking because I've asked before, but having you explain it here is probably good. What do you do with folks targeting your left hand?
Move it. Like I've had my left hand taken on the hand maybe 6 times ever once I started using the stick. Because my hand is constant motion. So if they hit it, it's not on purpose. And if they're spending time poking at the hand, then they're going to get stabbed in the face.
Yeah.
Because
I will agree with what Dom's saying here. Is when I fought him, I also was like, oh, there's no guard on that. I can just take his hand. You can't, or I couldn't.
Yeah.
You're putting in, like he said, you put too much effort into throwing that, he'll just kill you while you're throwing a non-lethal shot. Right? So it's a waste of time.
Yeah, that's Armand makes a good point there, right? Like if you do that, if you throw at my hand, I know exactly where your blade is, right? And that's not something you want.
Yeah.
You were asking about my sword. My sword hand is very similar, right? The guard that I use is very minimalistic. I would probably not even have a crossbar if I could get away with it, just because it's easier for me to move and parry with that as opposed to relying on the guard.
Do you have a blade lengths you prefer? What blade length do you fight with?
I have blade weight I prefer. I prefer as long as I can get, but at the same time I want the weight to be sort of towards the middle of the blade to use as a fulcrum. So and it can't be too heavy on the guard. I have right now I have a 43 and a 45. But they're both the rapier foil. I do have a bigger darkwood that I use for lessons. And if someone is actually going to come in and try and strong arm, like I need some extra oomph on my blade for parries and stuff, that's what I'll do that. Or if someone's goofing off in a melee and I need to, I mean, it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, not always what we like to do, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and it's sometimes you need it to be stronger as opposed to faster, right?
Yeah,
and that's what I would use that for. My goal, right? My strength goal that I can always work towards fitness is being, and it's just an arm strength thing, right? Is to be able to use so that the heavier darkwood, right, versus the lighter rapier foil, is to not have to change up the way I fight too much with them, right? Be able to switch back and forth between them, right? So I have the strength and the precision to be able to do it if I need to, and not have to change my fight going back and forth. But that's not always a goal I can get, right? Because fatigue is a thing and strength is a thing. But it's something to work towards and be like, you know, I do not need that. No one wants that.
So this is the slow mode of the killing blow that I hit you. So actually, this is a really good example. This is the shot I like to throw against you. This really deep step.
I missed there too, right? My
You did
sword
miss,
was
yeah.
in just as far.
I'd prefer to have my I'm pointing at the screen with my hand. I'd prefer to have my sword hand lower so that I'm blocking this line out.
Yeah.
But I am swiveling my left hip back to avoid. That's kind of what I would go for. But
Yep.
Could have been better, a little sloppy.
Yep. Good shot. And then you lost the next fight. I still haven't forgiven you.
That is true. In the tournament, yeah. I think this was a better example of what I like to do, but
yes, this was Rose tournament.
Yes, this is Rose. Yeah, get the parry on the sword, step in. That's better. Okay, let's see. We'll watch. Actually, would you rather watch, Dom, would you rather watch, we can watch the Queen's Champion you won, or we have a couple of champ fights.
I don't really care. The Queen's Champion one's pretty cool. I think
Let's
the video was good on that one.
Yeah, let's do the Queen's Champion, especially since I think we actually already reviewed the fight that was this year. Because remember, there's a video on my channel from Penzic in 2016 that Dom and I reviewed his champ fight from that year. So if you want to watch
that was against Master Antonio.
Antonio, yeah, from the. So if you want to watch that, us review that already exists.
Let's do the Champions one. I don't think I've done the Queen's Champion one before.
Yeah, right, there it is. And that's the finals. I'm gonna skip back to the. Here we go. I think it starts, the first fight I have you from the semifinals.
This is Lloyd.
Yeah, Lloyd. So, let's see. And it'll show, it looks like you got him in the high and the neck. It'll show that here at slow motion. So, sword parry down. Looks like you.
Yep.
Yeah, and then just follow and cover with your stick.
Right. So this is a good example of when I don't lunge, right? So you see me move right here, right? So this is a bad position. It kind of looks like it, right? But watch how I drop in to balance.
Yeah. Like I would say literally like from a couple of frames, like here you're unbalanced and then you drop back into being balanced like almost instantly.
Right, see there?
Yeah.
See, that's as I'm going down, I'm back in balance and I can just come forward and throw this shot. This is all footwork, right? That was all range. That was just extension.
Yeah. I also, you always do a really good job of you pull whatever part of your body is the sword is aiming at away from the sword really well. And you kind of end up in some weird positions, but it's very, you're very aware of where the blade is, I think.
And that is not something I'd do on purpose. That is just, there's a sword there and I'm doing the thing.
Let's see. It's a little hard to see because it's
this video is not got a high frame rate here.
Oh, it may be that may be my sharing of the screen stuttering a little.
Okay.
So you try to cover his blade with yours.
No, this is the first Queen's Champion we did with the Rose tournament. Okay, so basically I'm just staying in the pocket right here for him. and then to parry, and then just I was in range, right? So that was just sort of a drop the tip on him.
Yeah.
And the only reason I was able to do that, right, is because I was able to stay in B range with him as he was moving back, and still be parrying and riposting at the same time.
Well, and I think we mentioned before. I think that's where you do well, right? Is
Mhm.
that kind of being at that range where they're throwing shots, you're blocking everything out, and you'll eventually hit them, right?
Well, but it's also that, right? Like it's also part of the mentality of I'm looking for an opening all the time, right? And so then because I'm staying there and looking for it still, I can still hit it.
Yeah.
When it opens up, right? This opened up as he put it. If you go do a slow mo again, is as he pulls his hands down like he's going to back up that the opening comes.
Yeah. Yep. Pull his hand back down here.
There's another opening. All right, so he's going to throw a shot at me right here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Just
and
passed.
yeah, it's passe. Yeah, I got my stick on it.
Yeah.
And so I was just reaching in. This is Brian.
Yeah, we'll skip to the final.
I don't remember who he was fighting. Did I parry him inside? Meaning what? Yes, I parried him across my body under my arm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it maybe caught a little doublet on the way, but it was passed.
Yeah, it's passe.
Yeah, so this is the finals.
That's correct. It was Kyra's Queen's Champion. I straight up don't remember this fight.
Have you watched this video before?
No.
Oh, wow. Well, here we go. Against Brian Demore.
Yeah, I know I won. Brian always presents his hands out really far away from him. I remember that.
There should be a slow-mo here in a second. Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Missed.
Yeah.
Missed everything.
But you got the cross.
Well, he riposted, right? And we weren't
Yeah.
even close to each other, so it was kind of crazy.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it looks like because you kind of tried to do to like get his sword with your sword.
Yeah, and I whiffed entirely.
Whiffed it, yeah.
And so then he's going to riposte into that, which he should absolutely do, but he should have taken a step forward instead of that pulling his foot back, right? Because if he had that extra forward shot, then he'd have been a little closer to hit me.
So, do you not think that this kind of when you do this kind of action to start, that you want them to throw a shot at you?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
So you got the reaction, even if you kind of whiffed, you still got the reaction you wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew. So the cross parry, right? So look where my feet are, right? Right. The balance is still there to go forward. So he brings his dagger up in a parry, and then I drop my sword and then come right back in a replacement, going upwards into his mask.
Yeah. But they're pretty. I actually really like this exchange. It's very nice.
And I remember, if you go back, I remember throwing, I think it was an oblique step on the last one, right? Because I here, straight forward, reach, and then shift. Yeah, right there. That's an oblique step all the way to the right to come in on his center line, which I'd shifted.
It looked like he faded a little to his left as well, I think.
Yeah.
Good stuff, yeah. Yeah, subtle offline movement can be very handy like that.
Well, I mean, as his center line changes, you to be able to follow it is very key, right? Because when he's backing away or twisting around, like you be able to find his center line from wherever you are is very key.
Yeah, it's probably another advantage of the smaller steps again.
Yeah.
Quicker change of direction. Yeah, I teach. Sometimes I'll tell my students if I think it would be appropriate for the situation to take smaller steps, I always quote, it's like, you should use your footwork should be like Dom right now.
Sweet,
like,
I'm a cliche.
Yeah. What was this?
Was that the pants thing? Oh, this is where he yells like at the top of his lungs, pants.
Yeah. Let's see what's this. So I might went back a little too far. Wait.
What's going on?
Oh, I just went back too far. I wanted to see what happened right here.
Oh, what did he yell? He yelled something. Brian, what did you yell? I know you're listening.
Oh, that's my cadet in the chat saying she
Yeah.
doesn't listen to me when I tell her to do that. But
What, to put pants on?
no, to like use her footwork like you do.
Okay. That was, I think it got caught in my pants and he was just like, no, pants or something like that. I remember it was hilarious. And I was like, say that again.
It was almost as good as the queen saying you weren't popular.
What? Oh, yes. Okay, it comes later. Okay.
Okay. If we want, I can turn the. I usually keep these muted when we're doing the video review, but if we want, I can turn the video on, the volume on.
I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. I don't know if it's a. No, it is, because look, Flurry's laughing. Flurry's cracking up.
Let's. Okay, we're gonna turn the volume on then. Is that sound coming through?
No.
Okay.
Can you hear it? Listen to what he says.
It's right after this exchange.
Yeah, right here.
He said it caught hard in the pants.
That's what it was. Hard in the pants.
So if anyone wants to go watch this video themselves and hear it, this is the timestamp.
That was crazy. I was like, what? Okay, Caleb. Caleb's like, God damn it, Brian. Oh my goodness. I remember he said that afterwards. He's like, I don't even remember saying that because it was so hot.
So let's see. Yeah. I think this was a double kill though, because
I think so. Yeah.
You won the first, and there's a third fight. Yeah, so I must have been a double kill.
I may have just missed a shot. I may have just pulled back.
Oh, he won. Oh yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember.
So it looks like you got him leg.
Yeah, I got him leg.
Leg and
Easy
body.
kill.
And let's see, they'll show this again. This will be shown again here at slow mo in a second.
Okay. My God, Brian, you really do look exhausted.
Man, I leave all this stuff in here.
Yeah. Go back to the
Okay,
fight.
here we go. Here it is. Okay, yeah. So he cross parry. He parries down.
He parried onto his leg. Yep.
Yeah. And then as he's going down again here in the chest. Yep. This is pretty classic you, I think.
Oh, I've done that before too, right? It's like I'll hit someone like either on the chest or like thing, and I won't think it's good because they don't say anything, and they will relax right as I'm throwing another shot into them.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad when that happens.
Yeah, when it always is the worst when you don't like people. The hardest hits happen when people aren't expecting to get hit. Those are perceived to be the hardest.
90% of the hard hits that people complain about are because they were surprised about it.
Mm-hmm.
Easily.
Yeah, I think there's one other video we haven't. Oh yeah, we'll watch. And then we'll. Yeah, this is Golfers Champs. Being a fighter from Glenavon. I do not remember his name.
Wait, is this KO?
No.
No.
I think it's Doma or something like that.
I don't remember this fight at all. Damiano.
Damiano.
Right. From Glenavon. Okay.
From Glenavon.
So he was not guarding his center line super good.
Nope.
So I remember Ben being by the queen and actually narrating this fight for her. If you go slow mo through that last pass.
It'll show it here in a second.
Okay. Is that a fox that girl had on her shoulder?
Queen of Chimeras.
Like an entire fox?
It probably was. So here's the slow-mo.
Right. So go back it up just a bit.
Well, maybe I need to go back to the actual fight.
Coyote pelt. Okay. All right. No, that seemed more like the entire coyote. All right. So he's all like vertical and stuff.
Yeah, his blade is pointing almost straight in the
That's
air.
what, yeah, it's like straight up in the air, right? So, and he's not super fast. And so Ben is over on by the queen being like, all right, Dom's gonna back up a little bit and then he's gonna come straight down the middle. And then
I was surprised you didn't kill him on that first attack.
oh, I didn't. I had never fought this guy before.
Yeah, it's a good point. Let him show his rage.
And then they're like, all right, here we go,
Yep,
straight down the
there it
middle.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very well done.
Yeah. And it's easier when like I could see I put my stick out there to trap his blade as it was coming down.
So I think that's all of the videos I have of Dom
Cool.
for today. So if anyone has any more questions, you can go ahead and ask a question verbally if you would like. You can turn your mics on. Or comments, questions, concerns. Let's see if I had any other questions.
When do you head out?
Oh man, so I head out in May, and I
Cool.
don't think I'm gonna have a chance to fight before then. Anybody? I was
Haven't had a
hoping
chance.
things would open up.
I haven't had a chance yet. Congrats, man. And you
appreciate
will be
it.
missed. You will be very
you.
missed.
I'll miss all of you for sure.
Yeah. Go kick the crap out of all the upside down people.
I will miss
And
your
you
humor
should,
for sure, Avery.
And you should film it if you do, so we can.
I should film it if I do. Okay, we'll take videos.
So what's taking you out to Australia?
I got married, and
Oh, congrats.
to a Marine captain. Right here. Yeah.
Hello, world.
Oh,
Yeah. So
Congrats
she's
to Dom.
she's on exchange
Condolences to
program.
her. Right, got it.
So she's on exchange program down to Australia. So we're going down there for
Cool.
3 years.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Congrats,
Thank you.
Dominic.
Thank you.
So you're leaving in May?
All right.
You're still in Atlantia?
Yeah, still in Georgia until we're going out to California for a week, and then we're going to go from there. So
Wow.
And there's no chance I could fly out and get my ass kicked by you in that time.
unfortunately, man, it's all moving and it's dealing with parents and selling cars and stuff between then. But
Oh, yeah.
as much as I would love that, you're welcome to come visit Australia.
Pencil
so,
me in.
so does that
Absolutely.
mean we have 3 years to prepare for your return?
Yeah, everyone practice. Go practice.
If we do
Where-
come to Australia, though, you will fight us. Is that what you're saying, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Where in
I mean-
Australia are you guys going to be?
New South Wales, it's a place called Newcastle.
Okay. Newcastle. Okay.
It's about 2 hours north of Sydney. And I'm definitely going to go see New Zealand and go to Middle Earth.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that'd be great. I
I
mean,
actually think I have a branch out there, so you might not be rid of me. Ha, ha, ha.
What? You're going to come to
branch
Australia?
my company out in Australia. Mhm.
Oh, yeah? Which company?
I have
Barbara?
some good friends out in Australia I've been meaning to visit for a while, so.
Oh, well, I'll make sure and have an extra bedroom.
So really quick before I stop the recording, we can still stay on and talk for a little bit. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna say that thanks for everyone for coming. It was thank you, Dominyk. This was a great, super fun. I love
Yeah, does
hearing
anyone
all
have
the-
any questions about the stuff
Yeah,
we
if there's any
showed
other
before we sign
questions.
off?
I guess my only question is just a little bit more clarification. It sounded like you were saying that for you, you focus more on your hip position and balance more so than the foot position. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, and it's partially just a mentality thing, right? Because the where I can move my sword and where I can move my stick, right, are what matters, right? Where I can get those things to are what matters, right? So when I think about range, I think about where I can reach, and what I can touch. Okay, and then it sort of goes backwards from there, right? I have to be able to move a certain space, move a certain distance, a certain area. How I get that distance and how I get to that certain spot is less about my feet and more about my balance. Because, right, if I'm balanced, then I can move there and move back and stay balanced and move whichever way I need to, right? Because I don't always know. And many times who is that? Hello. Many times I don't know where I'm going to have to move, right? So I'm going to have to go forward and then, I have to move backwards, right? So if I'm worried about my feet as opposed to where my balance is, right, where my weight is, right? So if I'm balanced, I can move quicker back and forth, okay, regardless of how I put my feet, okay? But the antithesis of that is if I'm top heavy, right? My shoulders get too far forward. I use my shoulders and my weight to get momentum to go forward. Now to go backwards, right, I have to arrest that weight, rebalance, and then move back, right?
So,
it takes longer.
So Dominyk, one of the things that I was impressed with was the limitation of the refusals that you make when you're retracting your sword.
Mhm.
Like you'll retract to your body or less, whereas
Right.
a lot of opponents will retract beyond their body, which then increases the time period by fractions of seconds, which is critical. Do you feel like you do kind of a body mechanics? I'm going to stay in balance regardless of where my feet are, and do a read option. And by the fact that you only retract like half the distance of other fighters, you have then the ability to then modify your attack line. Is that how you're approaching this?
That's definitely part of the thought process. But that goes back to having my sword in a particular spot, right? So it's I want to have my sword in an area where I can extend it if I need to, retract it if I need to, parry up and down if I need to, and that is usually about the distance away from my body of a bent elbow, right?
Yeah.
And so the drilling and the practice comes from getting you moving as little away from there as I need to, right? So I don't want to move too far back, waste too much time. I don't want to move too far forward because then I'll miss a parry if I have to come back too far.
Yeah.
Right. So it's smaller movements of the sword, and then bigger commits when I'm ready to. So that definitely goes back to thinking about it, but it's way more about thinking about, I want to have my sword at the ready at a certain spot, as opposed to retract farther back or not. And the way I think about it, right, is if they're covering my sword and I need to retract it, right, that is a separate action, right, and I will only retract as little as I need to. What I fight against, right, is the natural reaction. People call it muscle memory sometimes, is the flinch, right? So like, all the way back. I now need to retract my sword to move it out of the way.
Yeah.
Whereas that movement doesn't need to be the same every time. It just needs to be as small as it can be in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's
in all of the videos that we watched, your retractions were right to your body or less. It was really impressive. And if you watch a lot of fights, mine included, sadly, you'll see retraction beyond the chest line, which then increases the time to be able to then not only parry, but then respond to the attack line that you've got presented.
So I think that stems from the really wanting to have your sword free, right? That's the natural reaction, right? I want a clean shot. I don't want them to touch my blade as I go into their body, or I want to get them off of my sword so that I can do with it what I want to, right? That's a mental thing that people want to do in their fighting. And that's something I've fought against too in my brain, right? Like if they're touching my sword, then I'm halfway there, right? I know where their sword is too, right? So, and I can hit them while they're still touching my sword and still get a kill, right? So fighting against I can't let them touch my sword, and being okay with blade contact and not having blade contact in the fight is where that mentality comes from.
So in your stance, you've got that left foot kind of forward. In your hips, is that left hip kind of flexed forward, or is it fully back? It's hard to tell with the pants you wear.
I'm mostly squared up.
This, okay.
Right.
For the
Your hips,
Your
right?
hips.
So you've got back leg back, right foot forward, but hips square, but back foot up
Mhm.
in either a toe or a.
It's the ball of my foot. It's the ball of my
Yeah.
foot. And my
Yeah.
ankle is flexed. My ankle is flexed to push forward and backwards from there.
And that's, I can't get as much of a lunge out of that. Brendan does, but if my back foot is not planted, I don't get as much of a lunge. And you were talking about that early, but I'd love for you to extrapolate on that of how you continue to get distance on your opponents without having a, like the optimum lunge.
So a lunge, right, is blade foot, is hand foot, back, pushing off the back foot, right? You want to make a solid line from your sword hand to your back leg, right? So when I think of lunge to cover distance, right, you're trying to reach something that's farther away. I'm not actually thinking that when I move forward. So my balance, right, my base of balance is what I'm trying to move forward, right? So I'm not trying to get a reaching lunge to hit someone. I'm trying to cover ground forward. And the thing is, I want to end in the same stance that I started, right? So it's like a basketball stance, moving forward or backward or side to side, right? You want to end at the same stance that you started, right? So I'll push forward and sort of like almost leap. But that's what the springing off the back foot helps to keep that small instead of it being a big like jump. It's like a spring forward. John does this very well. His lunge, like if you look at John's lunge, there's literally no bounce in it, right? It's
I
like
know, I hate it. I hate it. You
Yeah.
suck.
Right.
Everyone hates it. Everyone
Very
hates it.
perpendicular to the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I'm trying to do that same thing, but instead of like reach, right? I'm just like, here I am. I can fight from here, or I can fight from here, or here.
Are you doing, Dominic, are you doing more of a flechette from the standpoint of like, so a lunge is a single point lunge, right? It's step A, step B. That's what a lunge is. And the flechette is more of A, B, C, D, E, in the extent. Are you more of a flechette?
I could, so when I try to cover that distance, it's one part of the flechette. It's A, right? B could be backwards. I could turn it into a flechette and go just forward. I would never cross my legs, and I could do that, right? But it's just that first part, that A, I'm right here now, or B, I'm back here now. So it's that's what I talk about, moving my balance, right? I'm moving my balance forward and backwards. Instead of lunging, I can go quick enough forward that I can still cover the same distance without having to reach and throw my shoulders forward to get that reach.
I feel like you're taking, it's like you're taking your whole guard and pushing it into your opponent.
Yep.
And then saying, hey, deal with this. And then you're killing them based on whatever they choose to do.
Or pushing it into B range or oblique on the other side, right? But it's that, yeah. And I would never want one of those movements to take as long time as a lunge.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point.
And I think
unless it's John's lunge. Because that takes no time at all.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've stolen some of what you do, Dom, and I've added it to my fights. Like I use some of what you do now because I was like, oh, I like these ideas.
Why do you think I'm leaving the continent?
Well,
So it sounds an awful lot, Dom, like to use a term that I gathered from my youth. It sounds
Armand,
like
you
you're
go ahead,
leading with your hips rather than leading with blade or foot or
Yeah.
arm.
He's using his hips.
yeah, Armand.
Positioning.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah, sure.
it's a different goal though, right? I'm not trying to lunge. I'm not trying to get my shoulders forward. Sorry, go ahead, Armand.
Oh no, that was just pretty much what I was gonna say. So those who don't know me, I'm Armand. I was Dom's student for quite a number of moons, and what I learned was how to kind of goal set what your fight should look like. If your goal is always just hit them, then you think in terms of lunges and you think in terms of fletches, and this very kind of singular point. Whereas what I learned from Dom was always put yourself in the most advantageous position where you're able to attack in the best way at the right place. So while like the kind of horse stance doesn't give as long a lunge, it has a quick recovery and a short tempo, and it lets you be where you want to be at any given point. So it's more about putting yourself in the right position as opposed to getting a longer lunge.
Yeah. And sometimes that can be the same distance as a lunge.
Right.
But not always, very rarely.
I mean, just I'll play devil's advocate and say that against a good lunge, it wouldn't match up. Dominyk, just flat out. But I mean, against a real good lunge, I mean, you look at the Olympic style lunges and that kind of thing. That's
all they do.
Yeah, but I mean, but I know the effectiveness of it because I fight against that with Brendan, because Brendan fights a lot like you.
Yeah.
And he kicks my butt at least 50% of the time. And John's at least 5% of the time, 10 maybe. But yeah, I get the point. And I'm trying to kind of calculate through it because I was trained more classically on the lunge style. But if you are in the middle of a long lunge, which might be arguably longer than your positional movement, that is not quite a lunge. But if you get stuck in it, then your read option, hips underneath the body kind of position has an advantage.
Yeah,
because
then you can adapt.
You can adapt in the middle. It's kind of how I'm reading it, Dominyk, and I could be wrong. Please correct me.
Yeah, no, that's fairly accurate. The other thing is that I would, it's also mentality, right? So I would much rather you lunge, parry, and then do one of my smaller advances into your lunge as you're riposting, or even as you're lunging, right? Use your body to close the distance. This may come as a shock to everyone on the call. I can lunge. I can do it very well. I just don't, right? It's just not something that's part of my fight at this point. So I would much rather do it that way. I would never like match up lunge to my advance, right? I would use my advance to counter a lunge or to thwart a lunge, as opposed to replace it.
Well, and then just to cover for you, Dominyk, because I know you need, being one of the world's greatest fencers, you need cover. When your back leg is extended, like you had in a lot of those positions, you can't lunge. I mean, it's just physically impossible. Sure. And so the only way to classically lunge is to have the back foot planted so that you get the entire movement of the gastrocnemius and the foot along with it. If your gastrocnemius and your foot are already extended, you just flat out can't lunge, per se, right? Sure. And so, but I mean, I just watched you kick the living crap out of a whole bunch of our known world best. So I'm not criticizing.
No, I'm not.
Sure. I'm just saying from the static standpoint of what a lunge is, it requires the maximum extension from a flat foot and flat gastrocnemius. And you're starting with your left foot rotated forward with your gastrocnemius already exposed. And so you're going to get a limited but very, very quick response out of it. I'm sorry if this is too much.
No. This is what we're doing it for, right?
Yeah. So you will not get the extension of a lunge from that particular position because you're already through half of that move already.
Yeah.
But it does provide the quickness.
Yeah.
So if I was going to lunge, well, technically you're right? If I just sort of leaned my shoulders forward and extended my blade, I would be at the end result of a lunge from my stance. If I was going to lunge, right, I would disguise it by bringing my back leg in the same position, right? So that my knee is more vertical, and so that would provide the platform to lunge off of. And I do that sometimes, but normally I just don't.
Yeah, and you don't need to. No. I mean, because the distances often we fight in the SCA are so much more limited. So much closer than an Olympic style.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would much rather you lunge and come closer to me and use your distance to get closer to me, because it gives me more options.
Mm-hmm. And it appears like, Dominyk, you were just naturally great at body voids. You and John.
Apparently.
But I mean, there were a number of times, and once again, I'm not sliding your style. You're amazing. But like a lot of times guys will launch in a shot and you switch your body just a little, at the time.
It requires awareness to be able to,
yeah,
to do
yeah,
a correct
yeah,
body void.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to perceive that. And that is really hard, especially, you have to pick a lot, especially if you're finding a better fighter, you have to be able to pick up the more subtle signs of an attack before they really launch it. So whether that's a pullback of a shoulder or whatever, to know that where, not only that they're coming, but then also be able to project where they're coming from. And frankly, that's a problem I have. I have a,
So
I can
what you're
tell if
saying is I
somebody's coming, I have a
very
hard time
highly,
seeing projecting where it's going to go. And so that's kudos.
so what you're saying is I have a very highly honed oh shit response.
No,
Yes.
I mean you're
motion, but also being able to see the projection of where they're going.
Your
the
read
angles.
option.
Yeah,
Your read option. And this is and John's spectacularly good at it too. And even in your fight, you could see that as you're throwing a shot at John, and this goes to both of you guys, you see it, you interpret it, and you rotate to adjust for it. And this is something that I've taught for decades, which is the ability to be able to recognize a problem, observe it, react to it, and adjust for it in motion. And that's a very unique ability. A lot of us don't have that. We set out on a track. We're gonna lunge you in the face, but then your face is not there, and you presented a different body target, and you hit us, right? That's, I mean, it's super awesome.
The way I think of it is, I think of it as a blade awareness. So like if I'm fighting my opponent, I want to know where their blade is the whole time. And so if I make an attack and they attack here, it's like I know their sword's there. And so if I need to move my body or put my hand in the way, whatever it is, I know where their sword is. And sometimes I lose track of it, right? And that's when I die. But for the most part, I know. And I think it's clear from the video, and that's what Connell is saying, that Dom does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like you guys are able to, because a lot of that, as far as blade awareness, is not, I suspect that it's not actually physically seeing the blade. It's being able to extrapolate where the blade is going to go based on the body position.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
being able to visualize that. That's the skill that really gets you to that next level of picking up.
It's part of the improvisation, for sure, and the adaptability.
And Dominyk, I don't know how many newer fighters are on this. I see a bunch of old farts out there, much older than I am, but
by months, by months.
But if you were to boil this down, and this is the question, it's not a statement. To boil this down to why you, and let's say John and some of the other top guys out here are so good, I'm going to throw out a couple ideas, and I want you guys to correct me as I say it. Okay. It's ideal, your best stance for whatever your style is. It is then a perfection of the technique to limit the amount of retraction and other distractions that you get from your style. The ability to read your opponent and then react to what they're doing as quickly as possible. And I know we could debate this forever, but is that
really your ringtone?
I'm sorry, it's my fish. That's my fish. They have to be fed like at 8 o'clock, or they get angry. But it's kind of like you take your stance and you make your attacks, but everything's within this read option kind of concept, right? And that you never extend. What I was watching with you is that even when you were kind of sort of out of balance, you really weren't. You were always on the edge of some kind of balance, and then you retracted back into your balanced state. You did a read option, and then you attacked from that really optimal and unfortunately a good read option position that most people can't get into. Is that
so that makes a lot of sense. I would say that sort of goes to the way that I think about learning about fencing, right? There's many things to learn about fencing. There's many things that you can learn, right? How to hold your hand, how to throw this kind of shot, how to throw that kind of shot. the way that I think about it, especially as far as stance and body control and blade work, right, is to work backwards from where do I need to be to get this kill, right? Like you were saying, right? Like it's always be balanced and ready to get that thing. So if I'm learning something or I'm adjusting my stance, it's not because I want my stance to be better, right? It's because I have a goal for that and I have something to turn that into the platform better, or that will help me react quicker, right? So it's all backwards from, it's taking it what it will take to get this kill and then move backwards from there. After you get past the basics, of course, right? Like, but you're right? It's minimal movement, get yourself in the right position, and then be able to read and react as it's happening. And a lot of that comes with practice too, right? Like a lot of people will go to practice and search for that perfect shot, and what they need to be doing is getting in a bad situation and getting out of it, and or getting in a bad situation and creating a better situation while they're there, right? And that way you'll learn, right? Like you have someone come up and say, right, we have very few like personal coaches, right? But someone came up to me one time and said, hey, you're leaning your shoulders too far forward. And I said, oh, well, why am I doing that? Is it hindering me from getting a kill? Do I need to do something to do it? And then I realized, like, no, I just need to bend my hip a little bit better. And having my shoulders forward is fine because my hands are in the right place and they're guarding me. But that person said, oh, you should look at this and make sure that your shoulders aren't hampering your movement, right? And I took that back and I didn't say, oh, I need to look like this picture, or I need to be this way. But I had to work backwards from getting the kill, staying in balance, and being able to do whatever it is that came up that I needed to.
Hey, Dominic, that's something that I would, if there's anybody that's kind of new on the line, which I don't see anybody, but if there is, that's a point to really take into consideration, that any critique that somebody has of your form has to be taken in context of your form. Mm-hmm. If your arms and shoulders and your body position is slightly forward, it could be bad from a classical standpoint, but if you adjust your hips to a wider stance, it may not be. So right. Just because somebody says that something isn't right from a classical standpoint doesn't mean that it's bad from your form, and you need to adjust to take that all into consideration when you're evaluating.
But it's still good to hear those things, right? Because and just take them as observations as opposed to corrections. Because you have to, because regardless of what you're using or who's teaching you, you're all oriented towards the same goal, right? You're building yourself into the best fighter you can be. And if that means putting yourself in this position or using this stance or whatever, then you have to work backwards from success or failure.
Well, and video is a super useful tool for that kind of thing.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We just spent 2 hours talking about watching videos. So,
true.
So it's like I'm pretty pro using video as a tool.
Yeah, we could do this for a long time if we had more videos. You and I could. I don't know, but everyone probably beat it on.
I've watched so many videos in the last year because there hasn't been able to fight, and so.
Yeah. Hey, I sent you new videos.
You did, yeah. That was nice.
You recorded new videos.
Very helpful.
Oh, like you weren't watching videos before.
It's true, but the amount has gone up this last year.
So, I don't know if the person that you were fighting is on the call, but one of the things we were talking about was, or one of the fights we were decomposing, you were fighting someone who was quite a bit taller. And one of the things I noticed was that person didn't really use their range. And that is something I see with a lot of really tall fighters, is they don't.
Like Avery,
Where, well, I was going to say Mahadi. But
Mahadi and Avery.
We look alike. It's easy to confuse.
They're all lions. All the lions look the same to me.
So close. You're basically twins.
They understand their range from their upper body perspective, but they don't really take advantage of their legs. And so you get some of these folks who are 6'3" or 6'4", and that back leg is almost always practically straight. And so when they do want to reach for you, they have to really reach forward. And so it's like, man, you work with some of these folks, and they're like, their lunges or even their steps are almost like 3 to 6 inches shorter than it should be, especially with the lunge. Just like bend your knee, bend your knee, bend your knee. And so I've just, so I didn't know if any of those folks were on the call, but I just wanted to point that out. That's something that I saw in one of the videos with one of your top level fights, and obviously was a top level.
That was probably the one with Lloyd, the guy with the buckler.
Okay. But like I said, I've seen it, if you're not familiar with Monty, he's a Duke before he started fencing. I mean, he's just really tall, physical fighter type of fellow, but that's something really common that I see with the taller fencers.
So my videos are not going to be a big help on that, because I love fighting tall people, right? Because the small steps let me be very effective against them, and they have since I was a very young fighter, right? When people were throwing long, slower shots, and I was relying on speed, right? Like that was my bread and butter, and so I'm not, videos for me are not going to be super helpful on that. Tall people, I will plant myself right in the range that I want to be in, and unless they're one of the tall people, and I can name them, there's like 4 in the known world who fight like short people, right?
Yeah.
And those people are really annoying, but there's only like 4, so I'm not.
I think it was a Toritaka. He is because he's tall, but he'll fight down.
He fights like a short person.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question for especially you, Dominyk, but also for any of the other top fighters that I see on this list. A bunch of scary people on this list. What if you had to boil it down to your top, let's say 3 traits that make you better than everybody else, and let's admit it, you're better than most everybody else. So what are those top 3 traits that you could say, or that you would rely on?
Perception. Like I can read a fight as it's happening, like I can read a book, and that's something that came naturally. But definitely honed. But it is something it's also like the pleasure center, right? Like to read the fight and to figure out what's going on in it, and anticipate and know what it's going to do, and how the fight's going to play out, and what is actually happening in there. Adaptability is the other one. Being able to not have to have a motion pre-programmed and say, oh, I see an opening, and not have to think about a movement to like, oh, I should do a, Italian word disengage, upside down thing, right? It's being in the moment and being able to be familiar with enough with myself to adapt on the fly and to be able to know what to do. The third thing I would say probably is the ability to commit myself to a fight, to put myself in danger, like high profile fights, right? There's always that little bit of trepidation, and I think it came a lot from doing theater, community theater, right? Like that buzz you get from right before curtain goes up, right? You're super nervous, but the nervousness is what's exciting, right? So the willingness to embrace that and to jump into the fight, even though there's danger, and not to play it safe, and to be willing to bring all of your skill right up front if you need it, regardless of the situation. I would say that's probably the third thing that puts me above it. Just the willingness and the desire to embrace the danger, or not. Danger is probably not the right word, but the risk.
It's really You're allowing yourself to be vulnerable, not from necessarily vulnerable from attack, but you're allowing yourself to be like, you're not trying to over control. You're not, I'm not going to engage unless I have complete control, which means that you lose a lot of opportunity.
Trust myself, don't make perfection the enemy of success, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love those answers, because I probably would have given the same answers myself, which makes me feel less baited. But I love especially the nuance of the last answer, because fighting is always this balance of offense and defense, and how aggressive you have to be. And hey, the show is on, you got to go, right? And you can't be overly timid in order to do that. Can I change that? Can I flip that over to John and any of the other top fighters out there and see what they've got, if it differs a lot? Because man, that's right up my alley, Dom.
Yeah, Dom definitely he probably phrased it a little differently than I would have, but it's pretty close. Because I might have said like my ability to like be, and I say like I call it blade awareness, knowing where my opponent's blade is, but that's part of the improvisation. It's very similar. I think this is a little bit like what Dom said at the end too. Like I think my ability to like I think it was like pulling the trigger, like just saying I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the shot and just be done with this fight really quick and not be timid. But I think a really something that not a lot of people talk about that's really important amongst high level fighters is having an integrated hands. So you're using both your main hand and your offhand, and you're using them together in concert rather than like Dom was saying earlier, like stick sword. It's like no, it's sword and stick at the same time. For me, it's sword and dagger, and I'm working one hand into the other. And I think a lot of high-end fighters are really good at that, and not something a lot of people mention.
That's a good point.
Yeah, a great point. Yeah,
I think that having years of front row seats with John, and then having watched Dom, we've crossbladed a few times over the last longer than either of us wants to say, but I've marshaled a lot of fights that Dom has been in over the years. I've watched you fight a lot, and and you, your Grace as well. One of the things that I've seen with the top fighters that I've always tried to do myself, but I'm not. Yeah, there's days where it's just not there. But we talked about it a little bit watching the fight with MT. The fact that like I said in the chat, it's not that you knew what your range was. It was your ability to figure out what your opponent's range was, where you were threatened, where you were safe, when it was time to, oh shit, get out of there. There's that one exchange where you were like, the point was right there, but then there was that next exchange where he threw a shot and you didn't move, because at that point, your assessment of what was going on, you knew you were safe. John, I've seen you do it. Miguel, I've seen you do it too, where that is one of the things that to me impresses me the most about those upper level fighters, is that ability to, within a quarter of an inch, knowing I'm safe, I'm in danger, I got to do something, I can ignore this, just blows me away. And it's really, every now and then I get there, but watching the experts at it is fabulous. That is definitely something I want to would definitely say for everybody to work at.
Yeah, Avery, I think you hit on something that Dominyk and John didn't touch on, which is amazing because they're so unbelievably talented. But the flat out ability of knowing your own range and that of your opponents can be absolutely critical in a fight. And it doesn't have to do with your physical abilities or anything else. It's just knowing absolutely what your range is down to a millimeter, and knowing what your opponent's range is, even if you've never fought them before. You can base this off of their height, right? Their physical conditioning, but also their stance and some other attributes. So like Dominyk was talking about early on in this, that some of the guys he not actually ever fought before, but because of the way that he analyzes things, he wasn't really particularly worried about it. Is because even though they may be 6'3" or something like that, they have a particular stance, blah, blah, blah. It ends up meaning that they have a finite amount of range to their attack line, and therefore he can predict for it. And I know John does that to me because he dodges right out of my shots. And so,
well, I think a really great example was one of the Pinzik fights with I don't know who he was, but it was one of the Pinzik champion fights that we watched tonight. And the guy was 6'3" or 6'4", really slim, obviously tall, but he was definitely not using his range. And you knew
Montana.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
It was Montana, and I was like, Montana has beautiful form from an erect standpoint. You had beautiful classic form. It was the triangle, it didn't move from it and that kind of thing.
Should make a wood carving out of him, right? Put it in a plate or something.
But the whole time I'm like, bend your knees. What's wrong? Do they not work?
But I'm sure that I'm talking for you, Dominyk, but I could see in your mind, it's like tall guy, good stance, but fill in the blank.
Yeah.
This is the limit of his range, and I'm going to be able to
Well,
attack.
once he threw that first lunge, and then he riposted into it, right?
Yeah.
Then that's when I had his range.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's what I knew what to expect when I got him in the corner. Okay, can I
The
tell
last
a quick
time I saw
story?
him really try to, squat down or bend down with his knees at all was when you just had him, and he was in that oh shit moment.
Yep.
Was when he would try to move his knees at all. I was like, if you bent your knee like 2 more inches, you would have gotten a much had a chance at all.
And I don't know if Montana's on the call or not. But the point being is that he had to be completely surprised by the fact that he was fighting the way he was taught to fight, and that he lost because he didn't fully adapt to the situation at hand.
He just didn't follow John's advice as well.
Yeah.
So something Avery said made me think about it. About the whole millimeters thing. I picked up one of the I forgot the name of it. The swords that had like the grading in them, the punch it out. What are they called?
The elite one, blades from Castile.
The Castile ones, right?
Yeah.
So I got one of those, right? Because I figured everyone else is getting them. Like, I need to see what all the fuss is about. And it was really light. I'm like, okay, cool. And I fought with it, and I fought in a melee, and I fought in something else, and I was doing really bad with it. I couldn't figure out why. And until finally I picked it up and I was moving it, and I realized that the tip was floppy enough that it was moving about a half an inch every time I threw a shot. So I was missing stuff by like a half an inch when that tip of that silly sword would flop around. And I don't use it anymore because I need to be able to know where the end of my tip is.
That's something I would actually address to Castile. The first one of those Castile Elite blades that I got, the first blow I landed in a practice, it straight up bent about.
Oh no, it's fine right now. Like it was just flopping enough that I
the behavior is wrong for you.
Yeah, the tip wasn't in the right place, so I couldn't do it, and it wasn't that much.
There's a picture from the 80s, I think it is, where I'm lunging in on somebody with an epee, and the epee is bent back like this.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm thrusting out, the epee is still trying to catch up. So no, I definitely understand what you're talking about.
Probably wasn't an epee, it was probably a foil.
That was epee. It was an epee. It was just, it was bent.
That's when we started buying double.
Yeah, terrible.
I always get the stiffest blade that is legal for some of those reasons.
Yeah, you want to know where that tip is, right?
Yeah.
I may have placed an order.
Guys, I gotta get to bed.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop this recording. I was gonna say, everyone, that the next episode of this, we will be watching Duke Miguel's videos. So
yeah, sweet.
Cool.
So tune in. For
wait,
let me know.
1 month.
I'll try to be on.
Next, it'll be sometime next month. We haven't scheduled it
cool.
exactly yet.
Thanks.